All right, we're alive, Lynn. Say hi to Lindsay.
Hi, guys, and welcome back to our latest Boy Meets Squirrel, where we have no topic because we both suck. So it's up to y'all. We're doing open forum today, so drop us a comment in any of our comment sections on any of the different media platforms, and we will try to answer it. Try being the operative word, in a timely and succinct manner.
Wow, that sounded very official. That's why they pay you the big bucks.
Oh yeah, all like 42 cents.
Yeah, it was kind of funny how we were texting. Was it yesterday? What topic were we going to do? And neither one of us had
No,
anything.
no, my mind is
So
completely.
yeah. Well, you're getting the kids ready for school,
Yes,
and
and Eric getting ready for another mission. So,
I am putting an addition on my house. So that has been consuming gobs of time and taking me away from this lovely program. But we're here for our weekly show. Smartass is
I
already on.
saw him. I saw him. I'm waiting for it.
And Corey over on YouTube, although he must have said hi an hour ago when I first loaded this up. And I see Countryborn is over on Instagram and he wants to know where your Stargate background.
It is having technical difficulties, so y'all get this.
I like that view though. We talked about that before.
Yes, I
I
happen to like this view. In fact, when I was cleaning out this room, I set that view specifically so that I could do videos and whatnot.
I got to ask though, what's that white thing over your left shoulder? Because I don't.
That is a giant bowl roll of bubble wrap for all
Oh,
of the
because it kind of
sales that
looks
I
like an
do.
old porta potty that I used to have. Well, you do have young boys. Well, not young, but younger, youngish.
Youngish.
So, but anyway, so how's Lindsay doing? I'm stalling as I let people kind of come online.
How
They're all starting to come
I'm
in.
still here. I have not had nearly enough coffee today, so guys, I apologize. I'm not going to be my bright-eyed, bushy-tail self.
Got mine. Um, Maggie says hi over on YouTube. Hi, Maggie. And my Maggie is right here down below me. I can't pick her up right now. For those, somebody asked me how is Maggie doing, because they knew she had surgery, and she is doing fan freaking tastic. In fact, she's got more energy now than we've seen in probably. Already he's starting. Roar! There, I covered mine. Go.
Yeehaw!
So wait for it now. I gotta check this out. For those of you on see TikTok, I hate TikTok, just so you know. But see, every hat and mustache gifted gets a yeehaw from Lindsay. I see Lindsay can't see it right now, but it's up on TikTok. I'll leave that up for a second or two. Um,
People are asking where's my Stargate. It is
I see that.
experiencing technical difficulties, y'all.
You got to make a back. You know, one of these days, one of the things I want to do is put an overlay for us. It's tradition. Um, so that we have a nice, prettier background, although it looks pretty good now. So, guys, we are opening up today for you guys to come up with topics. For those of you that have joined after a couple of minutes, Lindsay and I were texting yesterday going, what topic are we going to talk about? And neither one of us had diddly squat. So it is on you guys. The pressure's on.
So,
Ask us anything you want within reason, and we will try and answer it. And look at the ball. Everybody's asking about your Stargate across every channel.
okay, let me see if it'll go up. Let me see if it'll. Give me a
And
minute, guys.
literally every channel somebody has asked about it. This is too funny. Maybe I need it now.
Is that better?
There it is. So now that she did that for you, I want every single person watching this to give us that like, thumbs up, and all that stuff. And hey, share this, especially those of you on TikTok, because they are throttling the hell out of this show. So if you're watching, and I see several of our regulars on, do us a favor, share it, give us the likes, give us that. You know the drill. So, Country Board says, yeah, not the only one who missed your Stargate. I think you've become the Stargate girl of apparently every
Well,
platform now.
okay, well, I'm blonde, so y'all can just call me Sam or Carter or Colonel Carter. Or, since she's General Carter
Right
now.
over
I
my
know
head.
you don't know what it means, but they do. All right, so
Um,
Mark on YouTube says, can you talk about yes people versus no people, and where most couples find themselves in between. Like, how often are
Ooh,
people saying yes versus no in a relationship? Well,
that is a good
that
one.
is a
Oh,
good
I
one.
like that. I like that one. Well done, Mark.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Mark.
Go ahead. Yeah, now we got something to talk about. Go ahead.
So I think there's this myth, and I was reading an article about this the other day about how they're talking about there is no the myth of 50-50 in a relationship, and how it's like a hard line, and everyone's saying, no, I'm giving 50%, you're giving 50%. This is mostly a woman's hard line, by the way. Men, I've learned, don't. Y'all's lines fluctuate. Y'all are much more adaptive in many cases, in many ways, than women. Um, and It's like, well, I have 50-50. I've given 50. You have to meet me at the 50-yard line. Except what if you don't have 50-50? Like, what if I only have 10% to give, and then my spouse's has to make up the difference. So you should be giving, I think it's more of like an average, like overall you should be giving 50-50, but it's not a hard line every time. But because women have this, I don't know, romanticized view of what a 50-50 equal relationship looks like, I find them that, at least in my experience, they say no very often when someone will ask them, like, well, hey, I only have 20% right now, can you make up the rest of it? And they go, no, we're doing 50-50. I'm like,
Well, along those lines, like, and I'm reading Mark's question, so just to repeat it, can you talk about yes people versus no people and where most couples find themselves in between? What's interesting, and it's along the same lines as Lindsay, is um, I have found in my relationships in the past, I am pretty laid back. So I tend to become a yes man, mostly because I don't want to deal with any drama or bullshit, right? So it's easier to say yes, dear, and just go do it rather than have to listen to, I've asked you 55 freaking times to take the garbage out or whatever. Um, and we're restricted already on TikTok.
well,
Unoriginal content again.
again.
Guys, if you're going to report us, at least try and be original with it. Oh, dear God.
It is unoriginal that you keep choosing unoriginal content.
My live does not contain the content mentioned in this notice. There, I'm going to appeal it. There. So now, all my TikTok people that are watching, you absolutely need to do us a favor and share this, because now they will not show it to anyone else the rest of the time, even though I've appealed it. Oh, dear Lord, it is so old. It is so old. But getting back to what I was talking about, is I tend to be a yes man, just for the sake, a lot of guys are, right? They will allow, they'll be the yes men where the women will say no. And I'm generalizing, I freely admit it. But it's a give and take, like you were talking about. And other than shared parenting, trying to put a number to a relationship of any type. Forget just relationships, man, woman, husband, wife, whatever you want to call it, even like coworkers or whatever. You'll often hear people say, I had employees under me. Well, he did more than I did, or he, rah, 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 rah. It's like, if you really want to get down to it, was 52-48 as opposed to 51-49. I got bigger fish to fry than listening to that crap. So,
Well,
it,
the idea that everyone would give the exact same amount of effort is completely asinine, because not everyone has, functions at the same percent. Someone's 100% all may not be enough. Look at, say, these past Olympics, the runners, or you're running a marathon, and a marriage is a marathon. So,
it's also
or a
not.
relationship
No,
is a marathon. Well, um,
I shouldn't say that. Neither one of us has a bad marriage.
but this idea that this person can give the same as that person, it's just the same argument as, what kills one person won't kill the other. Um, some people can only give 10%. I have a friend who has never really been able to have like a marriage or any type of relationship more casual than anything else, long-term casual, but casual nonetheless, because she is mentally handicapped. She has a list of things that are wrong with her, and in order for just her day-to-day functioning, takes so much of her time and effort that she only has like 30% left over to focus towards a relationship. Should she be penalized by saying no one's going, well, you can't possibly ever be in a relationship with anyone because you can't give more than 30%? No, she'll just find a partner who's willing to, more often than not, make up that, as long as they know that going in. I think the problem is that a lot of women will start off giving far more in the beginning part of the relationship, and then once the bloom falls off the rose, or the honeymoon period is over, women stop giving and they just start taking, receiving. So women will back off. They'll stop giving as much as they did before, while still expecting the husband or the boyfriend or the other partner to continue with the same output, while not realizing that in most cases relationships are about reciprocity.
I'm just gonna.
I know what the word is, damn it, I just can't say it, y'all. Don't at me.
Reciprocity.
Thank you. Reciprocity. Thank you.
I was trying to let you get there, but
so you get what you give, and if you're backing off what you give but still expecting your partner to maintain the same output when you have backed way off on your output, then I don't think that's, I think that's where a lot of women and women, a lot of women are blind to what, because they're like, I do all of this. I go, you, and in many cases, and I've noticed this a lot, is that women have children and they cease to be wives. They make their entire everything about being a mother, and they cease to be a wife. They expect the male partner to continue being a husband and to function at the peak of that capacity, in addition to being a father, while themselves focusing all their attention on being a mother. So they'll be talking about the relationship, and she'll be saying, I do this, I do all of this, and all the things she's listing are all things she does, but they're all centered around the kids and have nothing to do with a relationship. So I actually advise women, they're like, well, I put my kids first. That's the stupid thing to do. Your relationship comes first. One of the worst
things you can do, yeah.
Your relationship comes first because the relationship predated the children, and hopefully it lasts far longer than the children. And if you keep putting your relationship off thinking, I'll do more when the kids are gone, I'll do more when the kids, it'll be broken and completely ruined by then anyway. It doesn't work like that. You can't ignore your spouse for 18 years and then as soon as the kids leave, go, okay, I'm ready now. And he'll be like, nah, bye.
They're all asking, can we call you Taylor? I don't have any idea who Taylor is from Stargate.
No, I would not be Taylor. Thank you very much. I'd rather be.
Born has said that. I don't know who Taylor is, but I read it first. You're gonna laugh. I read it and I go, oh, Taylor Swift. No, wait, Taylor. So.
No, I will disown you all if you call me Taylor Swift.
But to kind of is when you start trying to put numbers to it, the thing that doesn't account for is that those numbers change throughout a relationship. You kind of touched on this, right? They're going to ebb and flow in either direction by the day, by the week, by the month, by the year. What it is now is not what it's going to be tomorrow or next week or the following year or 10 years or 20 years. And those that become obsessed by, making sure it's exactly even with the housework, say, that's not a relationship, right? Not a loving relationship, I should say. It's a business transaction, right? Or they start equating, well, if you do this, I'll give you, what? Well, the minute you do that as a woman, you're basically telling the guy that you are starts with W and rhymes with more.
Hey, Dan,
hopefully we won't get banned.
I think the music's still playing.
Is it? I thought I killed it. Go ahead. I'll kill it. It is. I'm so sorry, people.
Background music. But not only...
Right.
Not only does it ebb and flow, but with the women being obsessed with balancing the equation, which seems odd to me, because I may not be very good at math, but I can at least balance equations. And none of that newfangled girl math or new math either. We're talking math, like the old school stuff, the crap that got us to the moon. Anyway, I digress. Um, when women are the ones who are doing the quantifying, so they're the only ones doing the quantifying. They're going, this that I do is worth this what you do. But that might not necessarily be how he quantifies
We
what
don't
you do.
men do not quantify that stuff. I'm
Exactly.
sorry, we don't.
So it seems odd to me that women are sitting there trying to assign quantitative value based on any number of completely erroneous and arbitrary factors. And what's really bad is they'll quantify something in a certain circumstance, but then that quantifier changes depending on the circumstance or the situation or the various relevant other factors. So a guy will say, okay, she gave me an equation, I can follow it. Turns out that equation changes at her discretion. And then she's the only one that has the equation. So it's like he has the solution and he sees the sum, but he is not privy to the other side of the equation to
Oh,
get
but
that
Lindsay,
sum.
he's supposed to read her mind that
Yeah,
she changed it.
yeah. I know, ladies. That is called psychosis. They're not psychic, but you are psycho.
All right, moving on to the. I don't know this question. Is that your true love? Zora, the one, asked that. I don't know what you're asking with what's our true love. Paul,
If if
what's.
if Stargate is my one true
Oh,
fandom, yes. Stargate Atlantis specifically, but yes.
oh, okay. See, I'm glad you understood. And Paul wants to know what country are you in? We are both in the U.S., different states. Um,
I
oh,
live in
up,
the state of confusion.
Upper East said some content creator who hates you. I think she calls you the He-Man Woman Haters Club on TikTok. Although TikToks are very delicious. Well, she's one of several. I don't know who you're referring to, and you don't need to put her name in there for me because I really don't care. Here's the way I look at it is if I'm upsetting them, it means that what I'm saying to them is hitting home and they don't like it. Therefore, they will look for any reason to blame me or to disparage me because then they can avoid dealing with the reality that I am speaking. Angel, our buddy, said, "What do you believe is the difference between feminism and red pill?" Another good question. You go first.
Are we talking about how the red pill got started or how it has ended up? Because I
What it
remember
is, I
what
think, because he's saying right after that, he says, "Do you think red pill is basically the male version of feminism?"
I think it is now, because I remember watching Cassie J's The Red Pill documentary, which is how it all started.
Who, by the way, I have reached out to get on my podcast, but go on.
See if she'll come and be a keynote speaker because I'm
I'm trying.
trying here. Um, so I think, like feminism, the red pill movement started out with good intentions. What I honestly think, though, is that there's still a pretty good core base of quote red pill that have good intentions still. What I think happened is as feminism has become more and more extremed and it is barreling towards its own execution at lightning breakneck speed, the there's a certain smaller contingent of men's activists who are responding to the extremely toxic uh feminist talking points, and they have, for lack of a better word, hijacked uh the red pill movement. So they saw, rather than build their own house or build their own boat and go chasing off after feminism, they decided to steal a ship, commandeer a ship,
There you go.
and
Well said.
and then go racing off after it. And of course, in many cases, they have hogtied the original captains and whatnot and thrown them in a dungeon somewhere or the hold of the ship, because rather than the red pill movement, when it first got started with with Cassie J and the Karen Strong and all of them, the Honey Badger men going their own MGTOW, when it first started, there was nothing toxic about it. Sure, there might have been toxic individuals within the movement, because there's toxic individuals within any movement. No one is free of having radicals in it. Nobody. Um, but as a whole, it focused on heavily on fathers' rights. That was the big thing. That's what it pushed for, was the fathers'
That's what the initial thing was. And I was just going to say that
was.
same thing. Yeah. Because Country One Born said, I'm not familiar with this red pill reference. Can you explain it? So what Lindsay's talking about, what we're all talking about, the red pill was a movie that came out 8, 9, 10 years ago, somewhere in there. The woman who did it, her name was Cassie, and as I said, I have reached out to her people. I've had my people contact her people, except my people is just me because I don't have anybody. Because I want to get her on my podcast. If you have not seen that, it's really more of a documentary than a movie. People call it a movie. It's more of a documentary. If you have not seen it, I highly encourage you to go see it. Essentially, she went into this whole thing with one mindset and got her eyes opened up to what men and specifically fathers go through, right? It's the red pill is a play off the Matrix movie, which I know some people have talked about here. When it first started, like Lindsay just said, I think that's what it was about. It was primarily about raising awareness. What I do, what Lindsay does, raising awareness on the issues men and boys face. This whole show is essentially what Red Pill was, right? We talk about issues, we bring up the pros, the cons, we hold people accountable, all that stuff. That's what it initially was. Then what has happened is, as inevitably happens with anything, people started figuring out they could make money on it, right? So then certain people, the Tates of the world, if you will, got involved. And because of them, and they're essentially doing what they can to make money. They're grifters, in my opinion. They morphed this whole movement. And they introduced some very negative elements to it. Tate being the classic example. There's others out there, right? So then those that don't want anyone talking about men's issues, like the person that flags us literally every single week for unoriginal content. I mean, how unoriginal is it to use unoriginal content every time? Um, then those people are taking the negative side of what that part of the movement is and then making it seem like we're all like that. I do not support anything Tate does. Nothing. All right. There are others out there. That the classic one that now more than one of the women who speak out on behalf is saying repeal the right to vote for women. That is asinine to me. But because they've done that, now they associate Lindsay and I with that. So it took away the positives of the red pill movement, which was to raise awareness on men's and boys' issues. And yes, they have morphed it. I'm not a fan of the term at all now. I never really was because I don't think it really talked about what we did or made people aware of it. It's got that negative connotation, and you'll often see if you go out on X, which we're live on X right now. If you go out on X, they will try and say anything like, say, I post or many others. Oh, they're just red pillars, right? Again, trying to dismiss us. They can't argue the points we're bringing up. They can't argue facts. So the best solution is to apply a label. So if they apply a red pill label to you, then they can disregard everything you say. Hopefully
And
that
then
answers that.
and then by applying that label, they can attack our credibility and authority,
They
because
think they can.
they think they can. It doesn't always work, because I don't take shut up as a direction well.
Well,
I never have.
do you think it's a male version of feminism? I do think in some ways it is now. I don't think it's quite reached that point. There are many good feminists out there. All right, many good ones. Um,
the
I
the
have
problem
reached.
the
Go ahead.
problem is, um the good ones are being shouted down from the bad ones.
Same thing that's happening to
The
us, right?
the dumbasses are loud in their dumbassery.
Mm.
All right, so someone else says over here, repealing the 19th Amendment would solve so many problems. No, it wouldn't.
No, it would not.
It would not solve any problems.
Trust me, there are some really. I got to be careful how I say this. There are some uninformed male voters, just like there are uninformed female. How was that one? Because lately they've been crawling out of the woodwork. Holy crap! But anyway, we don't do politics here. But
extremes now. So repealing the 19th Amendment mark gave women the right to vote. So he's saying that if you repeal the 19th Amendment, which makes women unable to vote, it would solve so many problems. And the problem with that is that any extremes can only create more extremes. So you're always going to have to find some middle ground. And the best way you know that you have done your best and that you've made a good policy or whatever is when both sides are okay, fine, but not happy. Because making one side perfectly happy is an extreme, and making the other side perfectly happy is also an extreme. So you want to find a middle ground that does the most amount of good and the least amount of harm. Is that going to mean that there's never going to be... we don't live in a matriarchy. We live in a gynocentric oligarchy.
oh boy, she's gonna get on a roll. I'm gonna sit back and pour myself a drink. Go ahead.
No. I have to go get a reference book. I'll be right back.
Okay, well, I'll take over while you're doing that. So, I mean, I am adamantly opposed to that thinking, just so everyone knows, and I'm not shy about saying so. I know Pearl, to throw another person out there. I know Pearl is very much trying to make money by going around saying women should lose the right to vote. And don't for a second think she actually believes that, by the way. All right. She's a grifter. She's trying to make money. She knows if she says something like that, she's going to get thousands of comments from women attacking her. Well, then the algorithms pick up that she's gotten thousands of comments for saying that, and they push her content even more. I have 3 daughters. And 2 granddaughters, and I absolutely believe they should have the right to vote. It's not something I like. And when we say things like that, guys, I hate to say this, but then they assume we're all like that and we hate women, and it gives credence to that. So that's why I am not a big fan of that in any way, shape, or form. And actually, I oppose that mindset. I really do. Women should absolutely be allowed to vote. Now, you want to have, people should have some intelligence to vote. That I'll give you.
But yes, if you have to pass a basic civics test that the immigrants who want to be part of our, citizenship have to pass before you're prove that you at least have some grasp of what you're voting for, I would be okay with that.
I would too, but it applies both to men and women. That's my viewpoint. Keep in mind, guys, I know there's an election going on because, good Lord, every freaking commercial these days is about elections. And we don't do politics here. We're just kind of touching on it loosely. I do think, and I'm going to shock Lindsay with this, down the road we will do a little show on the election. But y'all aren't going to like what I'm going to say, which is both parties suck. Both parties hate men, and voting for either side, I'm just saying. But while Lindsay's doing her thing, let me just touch on a couple things. Pew Pew, thank you for the heart. 53, thank you for the roses. Carlton, thanks for the heart me and the team bracelet. And Moppy, thank you for the tiny diny roar. There it is. Tiny dinies get a roar from me. Hats and mustaches get a yeehaw from Lindsay. And while I'm thinking of it, guys, if you are watching this and you're enjoying it, give us that like, give us that thumbs up. If you're on TikTok, share this, please. They have absolutely throttled this show. In fact, they're blocking it. I can kind of tell because we're not getting anywhere near the views we normally have. So please share it and invite your friends to join us. Likes and all that good stuff. All right, Lindsay, have you got your... I'm stalling
I do.
for you.
I do.
Go.
The definition of patriarchy right here. Noun, a social system in which descent is traced through the mother's side of the family, or a social construct in which a female is the head of state. So, the UK, under a female
Queen Elizabeth,
and Margaret Thatcher, that was a matriarchy. We have certain matriarchal aspects of our society, but I still maintain that we live in a gynocentric, because let's face it, yes, our society is geared towards the comfort of women and children. So gynocentric oligarchy. And while plutarchy, someone said it down in the comments, plutarchy is close. That is not necessarily true, because in order to be a plutarch, you have to be born into wealth and maintain that wealth. I say it's an oligarchy because an oligarchy is a group of elites, but there's no guarantee that the person who is in that group of elites started out there, because we still have movement of class in our country. Just because you're born poor doesn't mean you stay poor. So while a plutarchy would work in places like where there's, say, an aristocracy in place, where there are true hard lines that nobody can cross in a caste system, it is not actually true or applicable in our case. So I'm still going to go with a gynocentric oligarchy, or do you know, just the Empire from Star Wars.
Or I'll say it. We're a cluster. You know what? Those in the military know exactly what word I was putting after that. Country Born said, and this is a great point. How would removing the right to vote affect women being less mad at men? Exactly, right?
That would just make them more mad.
Oh, that's
not only
point,
that,
right?
because the women who have brains, who prefer to be that prefer to use their brains to get ahead, like I, will be perpetually not only mad at all men, but also mad at the other women for ruining my life, because so
Go ahead, I'm lighting on you. I'm reading comments while you're
it would be it's collective punishment. A small group of women.
We don't punish everyone for the actions of a few.
Yes, a small group of women are making it difficult for everybody else, and they are a small group. They're a loud minority, but they are a minority nonetheless. So you're going to punish the majority for the sins of the majority, and all that is going to do is breed resentment, and that's going to get you the opposite of what you intended. Because I don't know if y'all noticed this, Jesse, I'm talking to you. Women aren't that easy to oppress, and if you try, bad things happen. And if you don't believe me, go look up Olga of Kiev.
Wow, you are pulling it. Wow. I'm not going there right now. Are you done?
Oh, we still don't live in a matriarchy. Matriarchy, as defined in the dictionary, which I got.
Oh man, she's fired up, man. You got her fired up, dude.
Like, right, I get what you're trying to say, dude, but you're just. How old are you?
So, she's on fire today, man. So Angel also said the worst red pillar would be Myron Gaines from Fresh and Fit. I know who Fresh and Fit is. I know who he is. Can I be honest with y'all? Never seen an episode. I watched about 5 minutes of a couple things that people have sent me. It turned me off immediately. I don't want to be anywhere near associated with them. It's again, they're out to make a buck, right? And that's fine. I have no problem with them doing that. But they are not speaking out on behalf of men. If the amount of money they make, if they ponied up $10,000 to support Daddy's house, then we can talk. Otherwise, they're out to make money for themselves. That's my viewpoint with it all. All right, moving on from that, there was another. Now I lost it. Damn it! I had another question. I'm stalling, Lindsay. Go.
I'm looking. Someone said, "When less."
Is John Shepard your fantasy boyfriend? I don't know who he is. So no, he's not mine.
No, that'd be Todd the Wraith. Don't ask any more questions. Someone said, when less men are getting selected, those less men will try less and less due to lack of competition.
Say that again, because I got it. That didn't register for me.
I'm reading it verbatim from YouTube. When less men are getting selected, those less men will try less and less due to lack of competition. We men keep each other competitive. Yes and no, because even within a small group of select chosen, there's still going to be competition for the best mates and the best resources if we're going strictly by biology. However, what men consider desirable traits in, like, the men that are raised in society now, Traditional men raised under traditional masculine standards had a much greater idea of what women were looking for in a prospective partner than a lot of young men unfortunately do nowadays. So when it comes to the partners, and we're also talking about like from the partner thing, not only that, but not only do young men today, because they have lacked a good masculine role model, don't necessarily know what it would make a good
Yeah,
partner. Young women also have no freaking clue what would make a good partner. They think, wealth and looks is going to a good partner make, when in most cases good looks and wealth and like social status, we're talking like celebrities or the asshole jocks of the group. um
hey, I was one of them.
you were not an well, you're a jock, but I wouldn't
I
exactly
was an
call you
ass.
an asshole.
No, when I was 18, I was an asshole. Okay,
Well,
I
that's
was a,
true of most 18-year-olds, male
I,
and female.
I was a Chad. I'm not gonna lie to you. From 18 till about 23, I was a Chad.
But
Okay,
but you change the people that are
I grew
permanent
up. I
chads,
grew up.
the people who don't grow up,
Yeah,
the chads that stay chads for the entirety of their lives. Women
yeah. I
might
mean,
think that they would make good partners, but they won't.
I'm reading the comment, and it's a little unclear, and I apologize if I'm not getting it right. I think what the person is saying, Ashik, if I'm saying your name right, God forbid I'm wrong on that. Sorry. Um, I think what you're saying is the guys that basically have had it handed to them. Let's call them the Tom Brady's of the world, because Tom Brady just got divorced and Gazelle got zip. That should have been a topic. Um, those type of people, the Travis Kelce's. I'm in the football mode, so those guys are the ones getting selected. I think that's a fair point, and they are trying less and less because they don't need to try. They don't need to try at all. They have literally women throwing themselves at me. You look at somebody like Travis Kelce, who's one hell of a tight end, right? He fits all the sixes, I assume. Well, three of the four. I can't answer on the fourth. And he's got a billionaire, somewhat attractive woman. I don't consider her beautiful. Literally throwing herself at him, right? So yeah, why should he have to try? I think that's fair. I do also think that what's happening though is that the other 90% of guys aren't trying to compete anymore. They're walking away. They're walking away from relationships, dating, society, the workforce. It's all coming into play. So I think there's somewhat of a valid point there, and I'm assuming I have it right, but it's Angel just said, what type of Chad were you? Oh dear. All right, I'm gonna answer it. I was a classic Chad, okay? Um, let's just say the hunting was well. Okay. My body, don't ever ask me my body count. I'm not trying to brag here, right? Because I made a lot of bad mistakes. But I was pumping and dumping like crazy. I had long, flowing, permed red hair. I played bass in a band. I was well in shape, that whole thing. The only thing I probably didn't have I didn't have six pack abs, but close. And I certainly didn't have a six-figure income back then. But um, I took advantage of women. I'm not going to lie. And I regret a lot of it. Um, I can't say all of it. I had a hell of a good time. Um, I was worked as a bouncer in a bar, so I rarely went home at night alone. And this was all pre-AIDS. All right, AIDS started hitting, and that's what ultimately stopped me because you were literally taking your life in your hands. They didn't know what was going on. People do not understand that who are younger, what that whole AIDS epidemic was like and the effect it had. But I was not a nice person, not a good person. People are going to clip this. Now, Mr. Clippy's going to come along and clip this. You just know he's going to. And that's
Yes, but
fine.
the difference between you and Mr. Clippy is that you grew up, he hasn't.
I did. Once I met my first wife, we started dating. That was it for me. And eventually we had our first son and so on. I did grow up. And I think a lot of people in my age group were the same way. 70s, 80s were a whole lot different than they are now. And the thing that was different most of all was there was not social media. It was, I lived in a moderately sized city, Albany, New York, so it wasn't like a small town where my name was going to get out there or anything like that. Whereas now you're going to get blasted on the internet for doing stuff. So a little bit different there. Anyway, hopefully I answered that question. Next.
So the same person who had the question before that one says women don't know what's good for them. Traditionally, it was a father's job. We men know how other men think and what they want to make fatherhood great again. Yes. So back when men were allowed to be fathers, we had less of this kind of promiscuity, not only of body, but also of thoughts and low morals in just children in general, but specifically the kind that hurts women, because they had an example of what a good man looked like in their father, or at least a father figure, if for some reason their father passed or whatnot. Now, women often don't have that. They're just surrounded by other women, and women are not as a woman, I can say that women are not always the best role models. You have to have variety in order to formulate views and opinions, because otherwise you're living in an echo chamber. All right, what's making you laugh? What did you find that's
Time
making you laugh?
traveling hobgoblin, but hair question mark. So this is not a lie. So if you know who Robert Plant is, right, from Led Zeppelin, he had long, flowing, permed hair. Well, I had to outdo him. So my hair was halfway down my back, permed. Yeah. And no, there are no pictures. My ex-wife burned them all. I wish to God I had them because I would post them so y'all could make fun of me for them. My daughter is trying to get into her mother's house to see if there might be some stored somewhere because I'm desperately trying to get them. I have no pictures whatsoever from 1985 till 96. None. Couple here and there that I've gotten from friends, pictures that friends took. But other than that, there's no pictures of me. And I hate that. But that's that. Mark just said that 70s, my first 8-track was AC/DC Back in Black. 8-track was the rage, baby. So I had my 76 Nova. That was souped up. I had an 8-track. And I can tell you, my first album was the Beatles' Blue album. So I remember that.
The first
Lin-
CD, my first CD
Lindsay's
that I
going, who's the Beatles?
I know who the Beatles are. Not only do I know the words to Eleanor Rigby, I can play it on 9 instruments from memory.
Angel just asked, Dan, when did you go bald? I will answer. This is good. See, you guys got to ask Lindsay some of this stuff too. Like, when did she go blonde? When did I go bald? Memorial Day 2007. So I was in the shower, no lie. My then wife was away. It was Memorial Day weekend. They always went away. And I was balding. And I just, on a lark, shaved my head completely. And she came home later that day, and boy, was she pissed. It's probably one of the reasons we're not married now. But if I could grow it back, I would be like Hulk Hogan if I did, if to give you something. But I choose to be this way. I did the long hair. A couple people have made comments about my hair. Um, and I am happier without it. I could grow it back. Smart assets. That's why I went bald. Spent too much time under the dryer. No, my friend, I actually did. My aunt slash stepmother was a hairdresser. She's the one who permed my hair. And yes, I used to spend time under the dryer. So you're absolutely right. My hair was fried, by the way. And eventually I had to get it all cut back. Not a crude cut, but pretty close to it. So you guys can ask these questions. I have no problem sharing. But you got to ask some of Lindsay, too. So, Lindsay, when did you decide to go from blue hair, or what was it, purple, to
Purple.
blonde?
I dyed my hair purple on accident trying to tone the orange
I'm
out of
still
my
teasing you
hair,
about it.
and
You know
I
what I'm
ended
going
up
to do?
looking like Madame Mim.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go back because we had a video then, a show when you had that hair. And I'm going to do a screen grab and I'm going to save it. And I'm just going to pop it on here one of these times just for fun. And you'll kill me for it.
Mm-hmm. Bury you.
All right. We're jumping around to questions. Guys, it's open topic. You can ask Lindsay or I anything you want. You can talk about men's issues.
First, someone asked me first concert. So my first concert my dad took me to was Elton John. By the way, my first CD that I ever bought, and I begged my dad for this, was Elton John's "Goodbye Yellow Brick Road," and I would listen to it.
Classic, all-time
I would
classic.
listen to it, and it had two CDs because it was a longer album,
Double album.
and I would play it on loop constantly. And then my second CD, which I was also thrilled about, all my friends were listening to the freaking Spice Girls. I was listening to Elton John and ABBA. ABBA's greatest hit.
Oh, ABBA's the bomb. Blonde or the brunette?
What?
Agnatha or I forget the other one's name.
Oh, I had no idea what they looked like for the longest time. I just listened.
The brunette, Be Still My Heart. Everybody else liked the blonde girl. I like the brunette.
Well, Dan, I'm not a DIKE anymore, so I couldn't tell you.
My first concert was the Beach Boys, 1973 or 4. And I saw them many, many years in a row. They, back then they were touring every year after year, every summer. I saw them every summer. But I've seen Elton John 15, 16, 17 times, something like that. I've seen Pearl Jam well over 30 times. Elton John's probably my second most. Beach Boys are right there. Billy Joel's right there. So I used to go to a ton of concerts when I was younger. Where I lived, there was a place called SPAC, Saratoga Performing Arts Center. It was $5 for most concerts back in the 70s, 80s to sit on the lawn. We went to everything that we could. So I saw every type of music there was. We used to go to the symphony and all that stuff. So you can't do that now. It's just too expensive. Keep the questions coming, guys.
Cadillac Jazz asks, can anyone tell one benefit from being in a relationship with a Western modern woman? Well, I am technically Western, not so modern, but I am a woman. And I can't tell you without getting banned the benefits of being married to me. Mr. Squirrely is glaring at me over my shoulder.
TMI.
But Angel asks, has anyone ever tried to steal your husband knowing he's married to you? Knowing he's married to me? No, but I got a story and it's funny. So we get to our first duty station up in Oklahoma, and we're going out as a group with all of the young single airmen, and that includes the female airmen because you're an airman regardless of sex. And they knew he was married. They didn't know who he was married to because they hadn't met me yet, but they knew he was married. Well, we arrive together, we show up, stand together, and there's this one girl who is totally not his type, but she is hitting on him so hard. He stands sucked up next to me, behind me the whole time, goes and gets all of my drinks because he doesn't trust, something, he wants to make sure that there's nothing in them. And then after we're done with the bar, or the club, we go to Hooters because it was the only thing open, and we're there with a whole bunch of really horny,
Hooters?
Yes. Hey, the fried pickles are delicious. But anyway, we go and she sits right next to him and leans into him, and he's like, yeah. He gets up, skinches his way in between me and someone else, and she is throwing herself at him all night, like doing the thing with the low top and all of that. And she's so upset because she's far more well endowed than I am, and she's mad that he's looking down my shirt, not hers.
We're gonna start a drinking game because every single week you bring them up.
Sorry. The point of the story is he finally gets up to go to the bathroom. She looks me dead in the eye with disgust and says, "What the fuck do you have that I don't?" And without skipping a beat, I say his last name.
Oh, well done.
The look on her face,
well done,
was like,
that's priceless, that one.
Which then followed, I knew he was married, but, and I'm like, wait a minute, what do you mean you knew he was married? You knew he was married and you still tried? I kicked her out of the restaurant. It's like, go sit at someone else's table. Like, you're not welcome here anymore.
Probably the somewhat similar story, not quite the same, that I had was, this is years ago. So I'm up on stage, right? And we're doing our sound check, just finishing it up. And this, now, mind you, at the time, late 40s, maybe mid 40s, um, married, a whole thing. And this 20-year-old girl comes up and starts going, "Oh, your paddleboard is so nice. Can I come up and look at it?" Now that I have a wedding ring on, by the way, okay? And yeah, if looks could kill, that girl would not be alive. Let's just say that. But it was, yeah, I guess you had to be there. Curtifer, if I said that right, said, "Dan, how old are you?" "I am 61 and damn proud of it." And then Franco T. Wood Jr. asked, "Do either of you train in martial arts?" I'll let you answer first.
No.
I did as a teenager. I took Okinawan karate from I was about 14 till about 16. Got up to a blue belt and loved it, but gave it up because it was interfering with my football. And I have always thought about getting back into it. Who knows? Maybe someday I will. So, did you see Angel's latest comment?
Why don't I just get them? Yeah, I saw.
you you brought it on yourself, girl.
For the same reason I don't get my stomach flattened. That is entirely too much money that I do not have.
They went into
Someone asked
second, said the
what.
Bangles. I have not seen the Bangles, but you mentioned the Spice Girls earlier. I went to a Spice Girls concert. My daughter
Really?
Sam, yes, my daughter was Sam was 7 years old. That was her first concert, and I went with a coworker. She brought her daughter, and it's 2 hours of my life I'll never get back again. And then later that summer, I got the absolute pleasure of seeing Britney Spears in concert,
Ugh.
which was entirely recorded, by the way. It was so freaking obvious it was recorded. She didn't sing a note. But yeah. So anyway, those are the. I love, guys. Keep these questions coming. This is fun now.
My husband, Mr. Squirrely, is a flight engineer, master master sergeant in the United States Air Force. Um, he's very proud of his plane. I'm less proud of his plane, but he affectionately calls it FredX because it's the biggest plane we have. Um, Angel Warrior says DC or Marvel? Marvel.
Neither, because I don't care. I don't watch the movies. Like I started watching. What was the last? It was a group of them, but it was like Iron Man guy was in it, and that
The
I turned.
Avengers.
Yeah, I think that was it. I turned it off. It just does not. These movies are so stupid to me. Sorry, I know I'm old. I admit it, but like you look at, like one I did just enjoy that I watched was the latest Batman, the last one that came out. That was very good. Probably the best one for me since the first one they did with Jack Nicholson in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, most of those movies, they're so formulaic to me. It's the same movie over and over again, essentially. I did like the Spider Mans in the early 2000s, but now
Yeah, but nowadays everything is so
they're just retooling the same movies
yeah,
over and over
it's
again.
regurgitating with different characters, and they always have to subvert expectations. I'm sorry, but there's something amount of cathartic just happiness when a story ends the expected way. You don't have to throw in a
Yeah,
curveball or
that
a plot
shocker or whatever.
shocker
Yeah.
at the very end. I mean, there's ways you could do it that would make sense with the story, but nowadays it's and the writing is subpar and nothing is original, and I haven't been to the movies in forever.
Uh,
um
I I have seen two movies since 2017, 2016. One was the last of the Star Wars trilogies, and the other was Bohemian Rhapsody, which was a very very good movie. I wanted to see that one in the theater. Other than that, don't do that.
I'm
Mark
looking for
said it.
questions here.
Mark said he got his red belt in Taekwondo in his 20s. Good on you, man. Paul said, "Are you going to do gyms with no women?" Well, as a gym owner or former one, I have done several videos on the issues with, I call them gym talk videos, but you can go into my TikToks, and there's some on YouTube's where I talk about the whole issue with gyms. I was just talking on one of my videos where I was saying to people that because I'm still in the gym marketing and owner space as far as like we have groups on Facebook and Discord and all that. One of the big issues everybody's talking about is filming in the gyms, and you're going to see more and more gyms banning cameras, which is not necessarily a good thing. As a trainer, because I train people now, even still, I have people who go work out in gyms and they film themselves doing, say, squats or deadlifts so I can check their form periodically. They don't do it every time. Now, those people, like for example, one just sent me a video. She has the camera set up. She's in a squat rack, which is against the wall, and she has the camera set up in the room facing towards the squat rack and wall. So there's no way anyone else is behind it. And she's not trying to dox anybody or do anything like that. That's appropriate to me. And that's why I'm not such a big fan of total bans. There are some cases where I think it's appropriate. But any other time, no, I totally agree with it.
So
So
maybe
we have talked about it.
there should be like specific spaces, and we can have only the camera facing a certain way, almost like it's static, nothing that rotates.
Yeah, I mean that the gym owners are struggling with this because if they do a total ban, they're going to get blasted. I'll tell you right now, it's going to happen. People will make social media videos about how they're not allowed to have their form checks and all that. Some of which is a legitimate complaint. If they don't ban them, that's a problem. It's a huge issue right now with insurance because what's going to happen if it hasn't already is somebody is going to sue. It's not if, it's when. Let's say some a woman is videoing and doxes a guy who just happens to glance at her as he walks by, because that's where these videos are. Just go follow Joey Swole. He does them every day. And that guy, without his permission, gets put out on blast on the internet. He's going to sue the gym. It's not if, it's when. And the insurance companies know it's coming. So they're raising their rates, which means your rates that you pay to the gym are going to go up. It's not, this is a no-win situation for gym owners. It's a really tough one. If I still owned a gym, a personal training studio, they're banned, period. There's no need for them. But if I owned a big box gym still, I would have some sort of thing like, and somebody else proposed this, and I thought it was a great idea. You can film, but you have to have a staff member of the gym hold the phone and do the filming. Something like that. That I think would be legitimate. And that might be the fix, but who knows? Planet Fitness sucks. It's Planet Fatness, dude, not Planet Fitness. Sorry. They're going to sue me now, but I don't give a shit.
I'm looking back through comments. There's another guy who said, where did he say? Where did it go? Where did it go? Where did it go? I lost it, damn it.
Well, Country said he saw the Beach Boys this summer. I didn't know they were touring. I probably should have gone up to Raleigh if they were up there. They got to be like 900 years old. That's another thing. Once you hit like 70, stop touring, people. Okay? It's just stop. Angel just asked, who's your favorite content creator? Mine is Squirrely Girl 1988. I'm just saying.
And mine is Dan.
So, did you find yours yet?
Yes, it says women's vote will only degenerate society, as you say, but it seems you don't really believe it. Women aren't as rational as men. Women can be as rational as men. Men can also be hysterical, by the way.
Fair point.
The thing that it comes down to with that sort of stuff is that we have to remember that we are voting based off of competency. And even now, guys are just as guilty of this as women, as we get caught up in kind of the pageantry of it, and we vote for who we like best, not who
popularity contest.
Popularity contest. So I think it was a comic. Gabriel Iglesias said that if we, people don't vote for politics, but they vote for like American Idol. If we were to set up the elections like American Idol, call in your vote with the next 20 minutes, and you get a free something, whatever, it would be so much easier. But
it's essentially what it is now anyway.
Which is about what it is. It has become a popularity contest, and regardless of. And we're voting on things like, well, he looks like me, so he's going to have my best interest. And hand, or she looks like me, so she's going to have my best interest
Which
in
is
hand,
ridiculous.
which is absolutely ridiculous. She should be voting on competency, not anything else. And where's that quote? I'm going to look it up. Hold on.
All right, well,
Say something, Dan.
say something, Dan. Something. So there it is. I got a snort. That should be worth something. Our buddy Bill said single malt or blended. The answer for me is 0. I don't drink. I might have had, remember I was talking about my Chad days? I might have had a wee bit of a drinking problem at the time, so I do not drink. I can still have a drink. I didn't have to go to AA or anything. But I stopped drinking at about 23, 24. I have not been drunk since then. Do not care to be imbibing alcohol of any type. So I'm the wrong person to ask because I drank more from 13 to 23 than most of y'all will drink in your life times 2.
I found it.
Go.
The forest was shrinking, but for the trees kept voting for the axe. For the axe was clever and convinced the trees that because his handle was made of wood, he was one of them. And that's politics in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Especially now.
I have the fix for it, by the way. You ready? Take all the money out of it. They're not allowed to advertise. You're going to give them a certain, you know how we all check that? Do you want to donate $1 to the presidential fund? Whatever money's in that, that's what they get to use to advertise. That's it. And let them try and get elected that way. It'll never happen, but.
Someone asked, should we separate boys and girls at the age of puberty? No. I think separation between the sexes is actually going to do a problem. Like right now, we have a assumption in society that if a girl shows even the slightest kindness to a boy, that is an indication of interest. And that is both sides' fault.
Okay.
So the way to fix that is not to make the gap wider, but to integrate and learn to communicate with both sexes.
Now, wait a minute. Are you talking in general or in school?
In school.
I disagree with you.
You disagree?
100%.
Oh, we should separate.
We finally got something. Yes, we should. Now, here's how I would do it. So when people talk about separation, they're talking about separate schools entirely, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying separate classrooms. So the boys and girls can interact in between classes and that. But as far as classrooms, I am 100% in favor of separate classrooms for men and boys and girls, right up through college, men and women. Why? Because men and women, boys and girls learn differently from each other.
Now, see, I can get on board with that as long as
no, you're supposed to still disagree. Stop it. We always do.
I would take that a step farther though, and I would say that we should also have separate male and female combat teams. So if you have a medic squad, don't integrate them. If you have active duty combat squad, front lines, you have your female unit and you have your male unit, and you keep them separate. And I'm not allowed to say on this. I would get spanned so quickly if I were to go into detail about why.
Well, it's funny because as you know, maybe people don't. I do a radio show that is purely political, and one of the co-hosts on there with me is ex-military, and we had this debate when they were talking about the women being drafted, which he was very much against. He's old school, traditional, blah blah blah, and I said, not only do I think they should be drafted, they should have their own female-only divisions and be sent to the front line. Separate the divisions by gender and let them go fight. But as far as getting back to, I know I'm stirring it up with that one. Do I think kids should be separated in school? Yes, I do. And it has nothing to do with anything other than the differences in learning. The way this K-12 is specifically set up right now is to favor teaching girls. The entire system does not work for boys. And the numbers are proving that. Boys are hands-on with their learning. Sitting at a desk for 6-7 hours, staring at a blackboard or a screen or whatever does not work for boys. And it's why their test scores have plummeted, and it's why they're dropping out. So, and I also think, by the way, it should be male teachers and female teachers. You could have a little crossover here and there, but Boys should be taught by men, girls should be taught by girls. Call me sexist if you will, but the children are the ones that are going to benefit from that. So that's my viewpoint. Good one, though. And we actually got something we disagreed with slightly on.
Angel said, do you think women should teach just the girls and men teach the boys?
I just gave my answer.
For the most part, yes. Up in high school, though, when they're starting to branch off into different subjects like history, math, whatever, it should be based on competency. And if we're basing who the teacher is based on competency, then I think that in certain cases, like say engineering, economics, or mathematics, you're more likely to have a male teacher than female teacher. This is assuming that we can get all the danger out of school with Title IX in the first place. But I digress. So assuming in a perfect world, we don't have to worry about all of that, I think that past a certain age, like in, say, high school level, we can start slowly integrating to the point where like a girl can have a male professor or teacher who could then be a role model for her, and the same vice versa. Because, and this isn't a perfect world. Right now, I think that if you are male, you should stay as far away from any campus as
Well,
you
they have to
can.
at this point. And I did a whole thing on that. If you don't go to my website at all, go to menneedtobeheard.com and you can go in and you see I've been doing papers and essays. They're in there. You can go read them. I love all these questions. Country Born just asked, what's your favorite snack?
It depends on what I'm in the mood for. Well, as I am a
And
squirrel,
the time of the month.
my favorite snack is
Careful.
nuts, and y'all can figure out what I mean by that at your own leisure.
Mine changes from time to time, but right now it's figs and dates. I have a fig tree in my yard. My figs are not ripening. I'm pissed. But I love figs. They're like nature's candy to me. So that's what I've been snacking away on. I tend to go for more healthier snacks. Jerky's another good one. So
No, I don't do mixed nuts. I'm kind of stuck on the same brand of nut for the past 20-something years.
Country just said, unfortunately, there's not enough male teachers to make this possible. One of the things that I've talked about many times in the past is it would protect the male teachers. The big fear of male teachers right now, and I've interviewed many of them, is the allegation coming from a student when they give a bad grade to a girl, right? And that's why they're getting out, because that allegation destroys their life. In this case, if it was, here's the way I would set up K-12. K through 8. Males teachers for boys, female teachers for girls. High school start integrating it a little bit because then they're a little bit older. And you can argue back at me saying, well, look what's happening to younger boys. I was one at one time. That was. But I think that would be the way I would look at it. You'll never see it happen, by the way. Teachers unions will never go for it.
So, Mr. Red One on... you're not Red Leader? Sorry. If the richest and best looking men in the world can't get a good relationship, then how are average people? Because the richest, best looking men in the world are not looking for a relationship. For the most part.
For the most part.
But
I mentioned
there's exceptions. There's exceptions.
I mentioned Tom Brady earlier, right? Tom Brady is the Chad level, right? He's really good looking. He's loaded. He's got it all, right? Quarterback, all that stuff. He couldn't hold on to Giselle. Now, the fact she was banging her personal trainer might have had something to do with it. But, they go through this, having talked with some of those guys and seen what happens to them. Look at how many relationships has Leonardo DiCaprio been through, right?
Or celebrities in general.
Celebrities,
a long marriage to a celebrity is 2 years. And that's like, oh, they've been married forever. And like, that's 2 years. That's nothing. So I argue that the richest, best looking men are just as superficial as most of the richest, best looking women. They're looking for something to satisfy an urge in the moment. They are not looking for a long-term partnership. And those that do, a lot of people there are some marriages in Hollywood that have been around for a while. And the thing is, most of these marriages, people forget they're married.
Tom Hanks is a classical. He's been married for years. And the love of my life, Marsha Brady. I just found this out. So Marsha
uh,
was my first true love. She's been married to her husband for 42 years. I just heard that.
hasn't Kurt Russell been married to Goldie Hawn for
Oh
like
yeah,
30
there's another
something
one. Yeah.
years?
So there are exceptions, but a lot of them, again, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but back in my Chad days, the 5, 6 years I did that, I had absolutely zero interest in a relationship. It was notching bedposts. So there, those guys that are at that level, the majority of them, I would argue, don't want a relationship, have no need for one. And the ones that do want it, they're looking for the tens. Tom Brady was not going to go out and marry a two or a three or a four. He went out and got Giselle, who arguably was the 10 at the time. So, it is what it is. I get it. It's frustrating as for some guys to see this stuff, but that's what it is. I see Fubar, sorry, said, how did Dan and Lindsay know one another? I don't know. She found me and just kind of hung on. No, I'm like, go ahead.
Um, I started lurking on men's rights TikTok because I have been active in the father's rights community for quite some time, for the male victims of SA and DV for quite some time. But TikTok was relatively new. And one of the first men, after creating my account and getting away from girl bitch boss side of TikTok, I meandered over to Father's Rights. Dan's one of the first ones I saw. I followed him. I liked him. I liked his personality. And then one day I didn't see him for like a week, and I thought I'd take a stab in the dark and send him a message and go, so, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Are you okay? And it snowballed from there.
Now we're besties. Um,
Partners in crime.
Partners in crime. Curtis, our buddy Curtis, just said, I'm going to tell you my experiences as a student. My most effective educators, mentors, instructors have all been males. I mirror that. Now, my favorite teacher of all time happened to be a woman, Mrs. Golden. I'm sure she's long passed by now. She was fantastic, but separating her, I agree completely with Curtis. I learned more from male teachers. I related better to them. They taught me things not school related, right? So I completely agree. And I think most guys would make the same argument. I see several people make a comment saying the same thing for me. Boys look for male role models, and they're going to find them. So, one of the things I always say to single mothers is you damn well better go find a guy to be a mentor to your child if dad's not. If you don't, you cannot possibly be the father. They all claim they are. And by the way, reverse is the same. But get that male role model because it matters. Because your son will be far better off if you do.
Angel asks, who idea was it to co-host? I think Dan came up with the idea and sort of kind of, he didn't strong arm me. He gave me a gentle suggestion,
I
and
did not.
like the rabid squirrel, he held out a nut, and like the
That's
rabid,
okay. That's
like the
fair.
rabid
Yeah.
squirrel I am, I said, "Ooh!" and grabbed it.
Well, I remember. I mean, what was it like January, right, of this
Yeah.
year? So for those that don't know, Lindsay was the very first guest on my podcast. Way back a year and a half ago when I started the podcast, she was my first guest. And she's been on, I think, one other time or two. And I remember, by the way, up until recently, till Maddie kicked you out of the number one slot, Lindsay's guest appearances on my podcast were the 1 and 2 top rated till Maddie from the Anti-Alienation Project came on. She's now kicked Lindsay out. Which, by the way, Maddie, I've talked with her. She's going to guest on here at some point. Her schedule does not jive with this, but Maddie's going to come on. We're going to talk parental alienation at some point. But the reason I reached out to Lindsay in January is I enjoy doing it on my own. I really do. But I thought it would just be more fun because Lindsay and I think alike, and she's like my little daughter. And here we are, and it's growing in popularity.
So
And
we must be doing something right.
so do it.
We're also pissing people off, which is again something we're doing right.
Yeah, so we're doing something right. And if you're enjoying this, do us that favor. I'm going to shill it again. Give us that like, give us that thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe all over the place. And if you're on TikTok, share this because the numbers are nothing. I mean, they are not pushing this out at all to anybody. I mean, it's going out to some, but not like it's supposed to be. All right, back to more questions. You got one?
No. Chris Bauer though
Oh,
says
I got one.
those males held me accountable. They wouldn't let me make excuses for
Bingo.
your mistakes. Yes, and even in the case of female apprentices or mentees, in my experience, male role models or male teachers, and of course, I'm going to shameless plug here. My most prolific and best male teacher was my dad. He taught me the most about life, far more than I ever learned in school, and far more than I've ever learned on myself on my own. Additionally, I met my husband when I was fairly young, so right next to my dad in the second spot is my husband, who has taught me lots of stuff about
Do I
being
make
stuff,
top
and
three at
you
least?
get top 3.
I'll take top 5 even.
So but yeah, my dad did not. My mother always tried to, well, how did that make you feel? My dad was like, you fucked up, didn't you? Yes, sir. Do you know why? Yes, sir. Okay, how can we make it sure this doesn't happen again? And he did not let me worm my way out of anything. And if I tried, he'd nail my feet to the floor.
That's what fathers tend to do.
That's what fathers tend to do. And in absence of a father, that's why I would say that at the high school level, you can have male teachers teaching female students, because in many cases, with the fatherlessness crisis that's out there, many women they make it all the way up to their 30s without having a good male role model. And then they have absolutely no idea what it constitutes a good male in the first place. And that gets them into loads of trouble when they try and have their own interpersonal relationships with men, be it friendships or romantic. I got distracted. Go. You had a question, and then I have another question.
Well, it's kind of funny because on 2 different platforms, essentially it's the same. So, but let me preface it. So Tim Raynor said being single is as better as it is. I can buy an expensive guitar whenever I feel like it. As someone who owns 14 of them, damn straight. But then he also said, I find it funny that men have stopped dating is a new thing. And then Franco over on Instagram said, do you think it's a good thing that men have stopped going on dates with women? The answer I'm going to give is yes and no. It is not good long term. It is absolutely not good for society. It is not good for men. It is not good for women. Short term right now, yes, I do. It's too stacked against men. The risks far outweigh the rewards. Until that changes, guys need to be careful.
All right. So Angel asked, what is the best aspect of my husband? I have to pick just one?
That he
Well, I can't say my standard answer because we'll get banned, but my standard
dear Lord.
my standard when people ask me, I go, the Smex is good and he buys me things. But that's not why.
That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the way it should be.
I think my 2 favorite things about him are that he is dependable. He has never let me fall. He never let me, and if I do fall, he's there to pick me back up. Like sometimes you need to fall to learn how to pick yourself up.
And that's what every relationship should be. That is awesome.
I think that's my favorite part of him. And then my favorite, I guess this kind of is the same thing, but I knew that I loved him and that he was my one when I realized that I was having a bad home situation, and all I wanted to do was go see him. Not because he wanted to take me somewhere or go on a date or anything like that, but I was safe with him. He was my safe place, my safe space, my home. And that's
I'm shaking my
That's the
head
thing.
because that's exactly what guys say. And women cannot fathom that. They get it for themselves. You're blushing right now. Look at you blush. Aw, how sweet. Oh, and just to tie it all together, Zorro the One asked, "Do you guys like each other?" Meaning you and me. Yes, but not that way.
Yes, but no.
Not that way. She's my daughter. Okay. Ew. Sorry. Not ooh to her personally, but no.
Yes,
Uh,
Dan is not Mr. Squirrely.
no,
Mr.
he is
Squirrely has
not.
hair.
Yeah. Oh, well played, sir. Well played. Um, he has hair for now. Ah.
For now.
Um, Franco asked, "What is your opinion on interracial dating?" Ooh, good one. Um, so back in my younger days, I did date a black woman in college for about 3 months. We got along fantastic. It was actually a very good relationship. And mind you, this is 40 odd years ago. Okay, we ended up breaking up because I couldn't handle the hate we got. So it's much different back then than it is now. We caught a lot of hate, not from the people you think it would come from. Um, she got vilified by her friends who were black. Her family hated me because I was a white boy. Um, again, this is 81, somewhere in there, late 81, early 82. Totally different time. I fully fine with the way I look at it is if two people like each other, get along, and want to be in a relationship, you go right ahead. I don't care if you're white, black, green, purple, orange, yellow, pick your color. I don't care if you're man and woman, woman or man, woman and woman, blah, blah, blah. None of that matters to me. We're all human
What
beings.
what two consenting adults do in their own time is nobody's business but theirs, and no one should
Right.
be able to say anything against it.
You
Um,
know, and I will tell you, I have always wondered if we had to let that relationship be able to get to fruition. I can't say I might not have married her. I don't know. I don't know, but we never got to that point.
so I have come a unique perspective because I come from a area of the country where we have our Hispanic population is almost as populous as, in fact, in many cases, in my both of my elementary schools and my middle school, the white kids were the minority. Um, in the late late 90s, early 2000s, and we had very many mixed families where one family was Hispanic and one family was not, or the one side of the family was mixed and the other was straight, Hispanic, and lots of Spanglish was taught. No, I can't speak it, but I do know when I'm being insulted. There's a tone of voice that is used that is like, I said something not
Well,
nice.
that applies in any
Yeah,
language.
that's in any language, but I think that in many cases nowadays, what I'm seeing is again, what if you like each other, great, but you should talk about it from the beginning. The cultural impacts of how that is going to impact your relationship, like the different, say, gender roles or whatnot that is inherent in your cultures. Because I have seen friends who, I had a friend in high school who dated a girl who her parents were both born in India, and their idea of a family unit looked vastly different from what he'd been raised to think of as a family unit. And they didn't talk about that sort of stuff.
Right.
They got into relationship, they got married, and then they got divorced 2 years later because they didn't talk about the cultural impacts up front like they had to. This idea that if you fall in love, that's enough. That love is enough. Love is not enough for a relationship. You two people can love each other and be like oil and water. They can't live together. Um, so you have to, if you're going to have a long-term relationship with someone or try and build a future with someone, you got to have a lot of these hard conversations up front before you get in so deep that you need a life jacket because you're going to start drowning. And I think that's probably one of the worst examples of the worst romance advice I've ever seen people give. It is, oh, if you just love hard enough. No, love is not enough. Finding someone you fall in love with is not good enough because like I said, my parents loved each other. They could not stay married. My dad loved his first wife who he left my mother for. He left my mother for his ex-wife because it worked out so well the first time. But she was the love of his life, and they tried it twice and they still couldn't make it work. So I mean, you have to
Well,
talk about these things.
yeah. Well,
Any
like
couple does, but especially
right
in
in interracial.
interracial relationships, especially across continents, cultures, or countries,
Yeah. Well, you
you
see
need to
that with
talk about that stuff.
the Asians are very, in a good way, by the way, very family oriented. The younger generations take care of the older and all that. And if if I was looking to date an Asian woman who followed that traditional mindset, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. In fact, I think it's a positive. My argument would be I have to adapt to that, not the other way around, right? And that can be very difficult for someone. But as far as interracial or whatever, I am 100% for it. Like I said, if anybody, I don't care what color you are, religion. I grew up in a predominantly Jewish neighborhood. Some of the Jewish girls were not allowed to be around me, so to speak, because I was a Gentile. Some of them were fantastic, and who knows, we might have had a relationship. But and I respect that they wanted the Jewish families back then wanted their Jewish girl to find a nice Jewish boy. These mothers talk about that all the time. You're a nice boy, but you're not a Jewish boy. Okay. Anyway, so that's that. Now I missed the one I was going to bring up to you. Hold on, let me find it.
Dan
Unless you
asks,
got one.
"What is your favorite memory of being a little terror and disciplined as a kid?" My worst bout of discipline involved myself and Mr. Squirrely. Are y'all ready for this story?
Is it family
Yes, it's family.
oriented?
Uh, so
Is it family friendly?
he would pick me. He would come. He was driving. He was 18, and he was a senior in high school, and I was a freshman. And he started coming to pick me up uh and drive me to school just to spend time with me, right? And we weren't doing anything horrible. Y'all get your eyes out. Like, just the drive to school, we could talk about stuff. He wouldn't, because the bus would get there, and sometimes the bus was late, and whatever. And we'd sit in the band hall and we'd talk because we were band nerds. And then we'd go to school and be fine because I wasn't allowed to date yet. And it never once occurred to me to tell my mother that occasionally he'll come pick me up from the bus stop. He didn't do it every day, just every once or twice a week. And she was furious when she found out. And because she didn't know where I was. I go, "Mom, you're asleep when I leave the house and walk up to the bus stop anyway. What do you mean you don't know where I was?" And she's like, "I just don't understand why you didn't tell me." I was like, "Because then you would." Anyway, I lied to my parents a lot, but mostly to keep them out of.
Didn't we all?
My mom she wanted to be in everything, and I'm like, "You don't need to know every little detail of my relationships with my friends because you don't understand half our jokes anyway." But this thus began the long arduous of she didn't like him, and she continued to not like him until junior year, when he came to her and asked for her help with getting a promise ring.
Aww. Aww.
But her biggest, I was grounded for almost a year straight, not 12 consecutive months. I was grounded for 9.5 consecutive months. Wasn't allowed to talk to him, wasn't whatever. And then in the middle of that space, I snuck over to a friend's house and called him on the phone. And I got caught, and I got yelled at some more. And she asked me, "Why did you do it?" Because I miss him and wanted to just hear his voice. She didn't like that answer. And I don't, to this day, I still don't quite understand what her problem was, because when she first found out that I was interested in a senior, she was thrilled. And then she saw him, and he wasn't what he pictured. Like, I think she was picturing a jock. And Eric was not. Mr. Squirrely was absolutely not a jock. I have no idea, but that I was a right terror. I was constantly trying to get around my mother and
You were
subvert
nothing.
subvert her rules.
Let me share my story because mine's better.
And my dad laughed.
So two of them, they're related. So the most trouble I ever got in. My younger sister is 6 years younger than me. When I was about 13, she was about 7. My friends and I took all her Barbies, and she had a million of them, and we executed them by hanging them from a tree. And she came home from school because she got home about 20 minutes after I did and came home to all her Barbies up in a tree with nooses around their neck. Got in a lot of trouble for that one, but then I outdid it. A couple of years later, she had her favorite little stuffed animals, a little stuffed piggy, and we decided to execute that. So we blindfolded it, tied its little hands behind it, set it on a chair, and took our pellet guns and just basically destroyed it. And I'm still in trouble for that one. So that's that. We do have to wrap things up, girlfriend.
Yes, we're
We have reached that
done.
time. I cannot believe how fast today went by. This was fun. So, you want to tell them about what's coming up?
Oh, this Saturday, guys.
Because we forgot to promote it so far. Good thing I remember.
This Saturday at, I believe, 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we will be doing a live for y'all to see on the weekend.
So everybody's requested we do a live show. So we're going to do one this weekend. We're going to try and do one a month. So the next one is this weekend, 2 o'clock my time, 1 o'clock hers. So 2 o'clock Eastern. So wherever you are in the world, you figure it out.
Where in the world is
It'll be 7 p.m. UK time because I'm coordinating with some people on the podcast for that. Let them know where they can find you.
I am Squirrel Girl 1988 on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter or X, and Instagram. And I haven't been on TikTok for a while, guys. I've been dealing with mom stuff. But the video that I have coming up next, Dan has already heard the
I gave you the idea.
He gave me the idea. And that'll be going up on TikTok and YouTube.
And it's not family friendly.
And it is not family friendly.
All right. And if you're watching this, you're following me. So give me that like, give me that subscribe, give me that follow. Guys, if you haven't already, give us a like across the board. As I said, we are trying to promote this show. And the more of you that like it, the more the various algorithms on the 4 sites will push it. Remember, we are on X, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok every week at this time, 4 to 5:30 Eastern. As we just mentioned, we're going to be doing a weekend show at least once a month. Who knows? The more people that follow it, the more people that enjoy it, we may add more shows down the road. Just saying. Tell all your friends about it. And I guess on that note, we'll wrap it up.
All right, guys. This was fun. Hope
Have
to
a
see
good
you
one,
all
guys.
on Saturday. Bye.